here is the paper which bears his name upon it as well as mine.
Und ich bin nun mit meiner Regierung 2 volle Tage gesessen und habe gewartet seit...
I have to tell you now that no such undertaking has been received, and that consequently this country is at war with Germany.
What General Weygand has called the Battle of France is over. The Battle of Britain is about to begin.
Die Partei ist Hitler. Hitler aber ist Deutschland, wie Deutschland Hitler ist. Hitler siegt Heil! Siegt Heil! Siegt Heil!
Monday, September 26th, 1938. The office workers of London, taking their lunchtime stroll, are met by a strange and unsettling sight. Trenches deface almost every open space, and public buildings have disappeared behind walls of sandbags. It is the week of the Munich Crisis. Adolf Hitler has demanded that a large part of Czechoslovakia be handed over to Germany. Europe is on the brink of war.
European peace is what I am aiming at, and I hope that this journey may open the way to get it.
In a desperate attempt to avert war on behalf of Czechoslovakia, Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain attends a conference at Munich. There, both France and Britain accept all of Hitler's demands. Part of Czechoslovakia is to be handed over to Germany.
Imagination is funny. It makes a cloudy day sunny. Makes a bee think of honey, just as I think of you. Imagination is crazy. Your whole perspective gets hazy.
This morning, I had another talk with the German Chancellor, Herr Hitler. And here is the paper which bears his name upon it as well as mine.
Czechoslovakia seems a long way off. Since the Great Depression, life for most of the British people has never been better. There are 2 million unemployed, but for those who have work, the promise is of greater and greater prosperity.
Have you seen the well-to-do upon Lenox Avenue, on that famous thoroughfare, with their noses in the air, high hats and colored collars, white spats and $15, spending every dime for a wonderful time. If you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where Harlem flits, putting on the Ritz, spangled gowns upon the bevy of high browns from down the levee, all misfits, putting on
March 1939, and the euphoria of Munich is brutally shattered. In flagrant breach of the Munich peace agreement, the German army advances into what remains of Czechoslovakia. Already, Poland and Hungary, encouraged by Hitler, have taken for themselves large tracts of Czech territory. In Britain, there is outrage. Even those who welcomed the Munich agreement now believe that Hitler must be resisted. Within weeks, Britain has introduced conscription for all 20-year-old men. The long process of transforming civilians into soldiers has begun in earnest.
A bunch of frightened rookies were listening, filled with awe. They listened while a sergeant was laying down the law. They stood there at attention, their faces turning red. The sergeant looked them over, and this is what he said. This is the Army, Mr. Jones. No private rooms or telephone. You had your breakfast in bed before, but you won't have it there anymore. This is the Army, Mr. Green. We like the barracks nice and clean. You had a housemaid to clean your floor, but she won't help you out anymore. Do what the buglers command. They're in the Army and not in a band. This is the Army, Mr. Brown. You and your baby went to town. She had you worried, but this is more, and she won't worry you anymore. Mr. Jones, Mr. Green, Mr. Brown.
Und ich bin nun mit meiner Regierung 2 volle Tage da gesessen und habe gewartet. Seit 5:45 Uhr wird jetzt zurückgeschossen.
The morning of September 1st, 1939, Germany invades Poland. It is an entirely new form of warfare, lightning war. Within 1 hour of the German invasion, the Polish capital, Warsaw, is bombed. There are heavy civilian casualties. The Polish armed forces are resisting courageously, but their situation is hopeless. This is mobile, high-speed war, for which the Poles are neither equipped nor trained. On September 3rd, Neville Chamberlain addresses the British people. The Polish War has become the Second World War.
This morning, the British ambassador in Berlin handed the German government a final note stating that unless we heard from them by 11 o'clock, that they were prepared at once to withdraw their troops from Poland, a state of war would exist between us. I have to tell you now that no such undertaking has been received, and that consequently this country is at war with Germany.
Within minutes of Chamberlain's broadcast, the air raid sirens wail, and there's a frenzied rush for the shelters. It is a false alarm. But as far as most people are concerned, if devastating air raids do not happen today, they will happen tomorrow.
Will now take cover in the basement. Please do not run, but keep moving.
The prospect of mass bombing is terrifying enough, but in the minds of everyone is an even greater nightmare. At the height of the Munich crisis, the government had distributed 38 million gas masks. Every person in Britain, from the very old to the very young, is taught how to use one. Most people detest gas masks without reservation. They're claustrophobic and smell of rubber. The heat makes women's makeup run. Some hairstyles prove to be dangerous, preventing the mask fitting snugly around the face. Men with beards must shave them off or risk their lives with an ill-fitting mask. Of all the nightmares raised by the prospect of gas, the worst is that of coping with babies. The baby must be placed in a specially designed gas helmet, which is sealed tight around its legs. A bellows is then hand-operated to pump air into the helmet. The thought of what would happen if the adult pumping lost consciousness is terrifying. Better by far to send children away from the vulnerable cities.
Worried about us. We're all very happy here, and I don't think anybody wants to go home yet. We go on the moors nearly every night and watch all the cows and the sheep grazing and the river flowing. We're quite near it now, and we go playing football on the football pitch and watch the colliery. Last week the boys and girls had a match of netball, and there was 14 girls and 3 boys, but the girls won us.
In the Britain of September 1939, evacuees are not the only ones on the move. The first units of the British Expeditionary Force are setting off for France. This month alone, 160,000 men will take up positions alongside their French allies. It is a massive effort, involving 24,000 vehicles and 140,000 tons of supplies.
Because we go and let the world go by.
The mood amongst the men of the Expeditionary Force is one of supreme confidence. Not because they're particularly well equipped, they are not, but because France has the most powerful army in Europe. The winter of 1939 is a time of severe anticlimax. In France, action consists of little more than the occasional artillery barrage from the massive defences of the Maginot and Siegfried lines. The British Expeditionary Force, dispatched with so much fanfare, has seen almost no action, while the RAF is dropping on Germany not bombs, but leaflets. The American press is already calling it the Phoney War. Only at sea does the war seem real. There, British losses are steadily mounting. Between September and Christmas 1939, German U-boats, warships and mines sink almost 600,000 tons of British shipping. The vital Atlantic lifeline, on which Britain depends for her food, raw materials and armaments, is in imminent danger of being severed completely.
Los!
As 1939 draws to a close, a new German radio station is broadcasting to Britain. Specializing in infuriating parodies of popular songs, it singles out the First Lord of the Admiralty for special ridicule.
Here's Mr. Churchill's latest song. Life is bare, gloom and misery everywhere, stormy weather. Just can't keep my poor ships together. They're sinking all the time. Oh, blimey. They're sinking all the time.
On the 18th December 1939, Churchill makes a broadcast of his own. The British Navy has won its first major victory.
Ladies and gentlemen, the news which has come from Montevideo has been received with thankfulness in our island and with unconcealed satisfaction throughout the greater part of the world. The pocket battleship, Graf Spee, which has been for many weeks preying upon the trade of the South Atlantic, has met her doom. And throughout a vast expanse of water, the peaceful shipping of all nations may, for a spell at least, enjoy the freedom of the seas.
In Britain, news of the sinking of the Graf Spee is most welcome. By now, the initial acceptance of war and its endless demands has turned to irritation, most of all at the misery of the blackout.
Oh, what a great big blackout! How can I make my track out? How can I pick my shack out? Crash, bang, I want to go home, stumbling along the highway, dodging along some byway. Oh, I never can find my way.
At first, there's almost no street lighting at all. Road accidents double. Almost 1 in 5 people sustain injuries of some kind. But suddenly, resentment disappears. News breaks of a disaster which makes complaints seem selfish and petty. In April 1940, Britain suffers her first major setback of the war.
It was about dawn this morning that the first reports came in saying that German troops were crossing the frontier into Denmark. At the same time, attacks were being delivered from the sea on a number of Norway's biggest ports. In Denmark, there seems to have been little opposition. In Norway, strong resistance is still going on. Oslo has been bombed several times, and the city is being evacuated.
This is the BBC Home Service. Here is a special news bulletin. As listeners to our early morning bulletins will have heard, Denmark has been invaded by German forces, and Norway is at war with Germany. The High Command of the German Army announces that in order to counteract the actions against Denmark and Norway, and to prevent a possible hostile attack against these countries, the German Army has taken these countries under its protection.
The German invasions of Denmark and Norway have come only days after Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain declares to the British people, Britain has made such a vast build-up of arms that Hitler has missed the bus. It is not Chamberlain, but the leader of the opposition, Clement Attlee, who perceives the gravity of the situation.
They'll get a good deal of spoil from the Danes and the Norwegians, but I do not think that this is a mere plundering raid. It is part of the attack against ourselves and marks the beginning of a new and more active phase in the war.
Within days of the German landings, a British Expeditionary Force sails to the aid of the Norwegians. The aim is to recapture the ports in German hands. But the Expeditionary Force is ill-equipped and ill-trained for war in a climate as harsh as that of Norway. On May 28th, the last British troops are withdrawn. Under constant air attack from the Luftwaffe, the evacuation fleet loses an aircraft carrier, 2 destroyers, and hundreds of lives. Even as the story of the ill-fated Norwegian expedition is still unfolding, the British people are growing more and more disillusioned with the conduct of the war. The cost to the nation is running at £6 million a day. What seem obvious steps for the government to take are not being taken. 1 million men are still unemployed, at a time when production is the highest priority. The price of basic commodities is rising almost daily, while the delay in introducing rationing is causing widespread bitterness. On May 8th, 1940, the accumulated dissatisfaction comes to a head.
Criticizing the war cabinet, Mr. Attlee said, "Everywhere the story is too late. To win the war, there must be different people at the helm." Continuing the debate from the government backbenches, Mr. Amery quoted Oliver Cromwell's famous words, "You have sat too long here for any good you have been doing. Depart, I say, and let us have done with you. In the name of God, go."
I sought an audience of the King this evening and tendered to him my resignation, which His Majesty has been pleased to accept. His Majesty has now entrusted to my friend and colleague, Mr. Winston Churchill, the task.
Having received His Majesty's commission, I have formed an administration of men and women of every party and of almost every point of view. We have differed and quarrelled in the past, but now one bond unites us all, to wage war until victory is won and never to surrender ourselves to servitude and shame, whatever the cost and the agony may be.
On May 10th, a new coalition government is formed under the leadership of Winston Churchill. Until the declaration of war the previous year, Churchill had spent 10 years in the obscurity of the backbenches. Now, the former First Lord of the Admiralty is the only potential Prime Minister on which all political parties can agree. On Churchill's first day in office comes news of a catastrophe.
BBC Home Service. The German army invaded Holland and Belgium early this morning by land and by landings from parachutes. The armies of the Low Countries are resisting. An appeal for help has been made to the Allied governments, and Brussels says that Allied troops are moving to their support. The British War Cabinet met at 8 a.m. The Ministry of Home Security warns all civil defense and ARP services to be on the alert. In the light of this morning's events in Holland and Belgium, the ministry states that the carrying of gas masks by the public has once more become necessary.
May 14th. With peace negotiations already underway, the centre of Rotterdam is bombed. 600 civilians are killed and 78,000 are made homeless. To the British people, Germany's tactics of mass bombings and paratroop landings come as a profound shock. The question on everyone's lips is, could such a thing happen to us? On May 15th, the Dutch army, fearing further loss of civilian life, surrenders. It has already suffered 100,000 casualties, 1/4 of its total strength.
Here, standing on the Franco-Belgian frontier, we're watching long columns of British troops and transports and supplies and guns coming through from France into Belgium. Just on this frontier, there's a little village which is presumably half French and half Belgian, since it stretches on both sides. And almost the entire village has turned out and seems to be standing in the street all day long, watching these transports coming up. The welcome given by the Belgian people is really tremendous.
Vive la France!
But the enthusiasm of the people in this part of Belgium makes a sharp contrast with the sufferings of the refugees from such places as Liège. We saw several lorry loads of these unhappy people, and at one point on another road we met a straggling little party of Belgians, old men and women and children, and some of them with rolled blankets tied over their shoulders, their few pathetic belongings strapped on their back or carried in cheap suitcases in their hands.
This roughly was the position when the British squadron was ordered for the attack. A French force was falling back to lines of defense northeast of Antwerp, and they were engaged in a race with an advanced German motorized column which were rushing round to try and cut them off. It seemed possible that the Germans might manage it, and so the order went out, hold up that German column. The Germans have been bombing again today, mainly roads and aerodromes and refugees. And in one
As the British Expeditionary Force fights in earnest for the first time after 9 months of waiting, it is already too late. the German drive into the Low Countries has only served to lure them away from where the real thrust has begun, the forest of the Ardennes.
I speak to you for the first time as Prime Minister in a solemn hour for the life of our country, of our empire, of our allies, and above all, of the cause of freedom. A tremendous battle is raging in France and Flanders. The Germans, by a remarkable combination of air bombing and heavily armored tanks, have broken through the French defenses north of the Maginot Line, and strong columns of their armored vehicles are ravaging the open country, which for the first day or two was without defenders. They have penetrated deeply and spread alarm and confusion in their track. Behind them there are now appearing infantry in lorries, and behind them again the large masses are moving forward. We have been clawing down 3 or 4 to 1 of our enemies. In cutting down the German bombers, we are fighting our own battle, as well as that of France. After this battle in France abates its force, there will come the battle for our island, for all that Britain is, and all that Britain means. That will be the struggle. In that supreme emergency, we shall not hesitate to take every step, even the most drastic, to call forth from our people the last ounce and the last inch of effort of which they are capable.
By May 13th, there is a breach in the French line 50 miles wide. The lightning drive which follows will cover 200 miles in 10 days, and all because one German general with 3 tank divisions ignores orders to stop. By May 20th, the German armies have reached the Channel. To their own astonishment, they are now in sight of Dover. May 27th. Boulogne is surrounded and Calais besieged. Now, with the German armoured pincers only 10 miles apart, the bulk of the British Expeditionary Force and part of the French First Army retreat towards the town of Dunkirk. The battle is furious. Fighting rages from street to street and house to house. This is no longer a conflict between armies in the field, but a struggle for survival, waged by small groups of trapped and desperate men. By now, the British Expeditionary Force has lost almost all its heavy weapons. Men are fighting tanks with no more than machine guns and grenades. Then, against all hope, the German tanks, poised to administer the final blow, are suddenly withdrawn. They are instead to strike towards Paris. But the Battle of Dunkirk is far from over. In Britain, a momentous decision has been taken. The British Expeditionary Force is to be evacuated by sea. Churchill warns the House of Commons to prepare itself for hard and heavy tidings. He does not say that the government expects to save only 35,000 of the 300,000 men trapped at Dunkirk. From the beginning, the evacuation seems doomed to failure. The first ships to survive the air attacks, the minefields, and the torpedoes now find themselves under the German guns at Calais. Once inside the harbour at Dunkirk, the big ships find that they are too big for its shallow waters. Only 7,000 men escape that first day. On the second day, the ships use a new approach to Dunkirk. Under heavy air attack, they rescue 47,000 men. Then comes a signal. Dunkirk harbour is blocked by damaged ships. All further evacuations must be from the beaches. On this day alone, 3 destroyers are sunk and 6 are badly damaged. The British Admiralty, alarmed by such losses, orders all its new destroyers withdrawn immediately. On the morning of the 30th of May, an urgent message is dispatched to the British War Ministry. Send as many boats and as much ammunition as possible. The call is answered. From across the Channel sails the strangest fleet in naval history. Those who saw it knew they were witnessing something quite remarkable.
But here at Dunkirk is another English epic. And to my mind, what was most characteristically English about it, so typical of us, so absurd and yet so grand and gallant, that you hardly know whether to laugh or to cry when you read about them, was the part played in the difficult and dangerous embarkation, not by the warships, magnificent though they were, but by the little pleasure steamers. We've known them and laughed at them, these fussy little steamers, all our lives. Sometimes they only went as far as the next seaside resort, but the boldest of them might manage a channel crossing to let everybody have a glimpse of Boulogne. They were usually paddle steamers, making a great deal more fuss with all their churning than they made speed. And they weren't proud, for they let you see their works going round. They liked to call themselves queens and belles, and even if they were new, there was always something old-fashioned, a Dickens touch, a mid-Victorian air about them. They seemed to belong to the same ridiculous holiday world as Pierrots and piers, sandcastles, ham and egg teas, palmists, automatic machines, and crowded, sweating promenades. But they were called out of that world, and let it be noted, they were called out in good time and good order. Yes, these Brighton belles and Brighton queens left that innocent, foolish world of theirs to sail into the inferno, to defy bombs, shells, magnetic mines, torpedoes, machine gun fire, to rescue our soldiers. Some of them, alas, will never return. Among those paddle steamers that will never return was one that I knew well, for it was the pride of our ferry service to the Isle of Wight, none other than the good ship Gracie Fields. But now, look, this little steamer, like all her brave and battered sisters, is immortal. She'll go sailing proudly down the years in the epic of Dunkirk. And our great-grandchildren, when they learn how we began this war by snatching glory out of defeat and then swept on to victory, may also learn how the little holiday steamers made an excursion to hell and came back glorious.
I'm looking for a star tonight, the star we looked for so long ago. I'm wondering how you are tonight. I hope that you're all right, and want you to know, dear, I shall be waiting as the days go slowly by.
By June 2nd, as the last British units prepare to embark from a beach area now only 2 miles long, the number already evacuated exceeds 300,000. For the sailors of the Armada, amateur and professional, it has been the most exhausting and exhilarating 6 days of their lives.
days and nights, ships of all kinds have plied to and fro across the Channel under the fierce onslaught of the enemy's bombers, utterly regardless of the perils, to bring out as many as possible of the trapped BEF. There was every kind of ship that I saw coming in this morning, and every one of them was crammed full of tired, battle-stained and blood-stained British soldiers. Soon after dawn this morning, I watched 2 warships steaming in, one listing heavily to port under the enormous load of men she carried on her decks. In a few minutes, her tired commander had her alongside, and a gangway was thrown from her decks to the quay. Transport officers counted the men as they came ashore. No question of units, no question of regiments, no question even of nationality, for there were French and Belgian soldiers who had fought side by side with the British in the Battle of Flanders. All of them were tired. Some were completely exhausted. But the most amazing thing was that practically every man was reasonably cheerful, and most of them managed to smile. Even when a man was obviously on the verge of collapse from sheer fatigue, you could still tell by his eyes that his spirit was irrepressible. And that is a thing that all the bombs in Germany will never crush.
The outcome is seen as nothing short of miraculous. Everywhere there's a strange euphoria, a heady mixture of relief and profound thankfulness.
The news from France is very bad, and I grieve for the gallant French people who have fallen into this terrible misfortune. Nothing will alter our feelings towards them or our faith that the genius of France will rise again.
On June 17th, a French general, still relatively unknown to his own people, flies to London. Charles de Gaulle carries with him, as Churchill puts it, the honor of France. Paris has already fallen.
Outside the barracks, by the corner light, I'll always stand and wait for you at night. We will create a world for two. I'll wait for you the whole night through. For you, Lily Marlene. For you, Lily Marlene. Bugler tonight, don't play the call to arms. I want another evening with her charm. Then we will say goodbye and part. I'll always keep you in my heart. With me, Lily Marlene. With me, Lily Marlene. Give me a rose to show how much you care. Tie to the stem a lock of golden hair. Surely tomorrow you'll feel blue, but then will come a love that's new. For you, Lily Marlene. For you, Lily Marlene. Marching in the mud and cold, and when my pack seems more than I can hold, my love for you renews my might. I'm warm again. My pack is light. It's you, Lily Marlene. It's you, Lily Marlene. My love for you, when you're my might, I'm warm again. My pack is light. It's you, Lily Marlene. It's you, Lily Marlene.
What General Weygand has called the Battle of France is over. The Battle of Britain is about to begin. Upon this battle depends the survival of Christian civilization. Upon it depends our own British life and the long continuity of our institutions and our empire. The whole fury and might of the enemy must very soon be turned on us. Hitler knows that he will have to break us in this island or lose the war. If we can stand up to him, all Europe may be freed, and the life of the world may move forward into broad, sunlit uplands. But if we fail, then the whole world, including the United States, including all that we have known and cared for, will sink into the abyss of a new dark age, made more sinister and perhaps more protracted by the lights of perverted science. Let us therefore brace ourselves to our duty. So bear ourselves that if the British Empire and its Commonwealth last for 1,000 years, men will still say, this was their finest hour.
To know that thumbs are up in England, the sign that shows that everything's okay. The boys have brought a word back home to England, for over there they always used to say, put your thumbs up and say it's tickety-boo, 'cause tickety-boo means everything will be fine. You'll always wear a smile if you'll only say it's tickety-boo, tickety-boo, tickety-boo today. Put your thumbs up and say it's tickety-boo. We're going to show the world who's who. And this is how you end your little chorus. Thumbs up, tickety-boo, tickety-boo. Tickety-boo means everything will be fine. You'll always wear a smile if you'll only say, it's tickety-boo, tickety-boo, tickety-boo today. Put your thumbs up and say say a siggity-boo. We're going to show the world who's who. And this is how you end your little chorus. Thumb, thumb, biggity-boo, biggity-boo.